Welcome to another version of Vikings Vintage. I had some technical difficulties first coming in. It's Packers week, so let's get into it.
Skol Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, honor your name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Vikings, run out the score. You'll hear us yell for more. V-I-K-I-N-G-S. Skol Vikings, let's roll.
So, Vikings Packer week, Vikings Packers history.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it. A lot of it.
So, where do we start? Do we talk about the all-time series? Talk about best wins, worst wins?
Yeah, well, what's the all-time series? I know the Packers were leading last time I checked.
I think the Packer. I think the of all the divisional opponents, I think the Packers are the only team that have the overall best record against the Vikings.
Okay.
I think it. Well, last time I saw it was like 54 or something. So let me see.
Yeah, because the Vikings had the lead, and then the Packers took the lead again in the 80s.
So let's see here. It looks like all right. I think it's 56-58.
Is that close, huh?
66-58.
Okay. Packers advantage.
Yeah, the 3 ties.
Yeah. Yeah, I was alive for 2 of those ties.
Yep. Yeah.
78 and 2013.
Yes. So, but it looks like lately
it's been pretty even.
Lately.
Yeah.
Well, the Packers. I mean, like last year, the Vikings destroyed them in one game, and then the Packers destroyed them in the other. Destroyed the Vikings in the other.
And then they split the year before that.
They split a lot.
Especially recently. It's been a lot of splits recently. I think they swept us in 2020, I think. Not even 2020. I think 2021.
So Green Bay last year, they won 33-10. The Vikings won 24-10. The year before, 2023, in the play 41-17. I think that was one of the worst. But the Vikings beat them 28-7 that year.
That's 2022.
2023.
2023.
Well, January 1st of 2023 was the 41-17 loss for the Vikings.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, now I got to remember the regular season bleeds into the next year.
Yep, and then 34-31, 28-22, 43-34, 23-10. So, I mean, and of course, you had that 16-0 win.
Okay, yeah. What was that, 2017?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think that was the last time. Was that the only shutout of the series? Let me see.
No, there's other shutouts. Don't forget the Vikings beat the Packers 3-0 one game.
But that 2017 shutout. Uh,
That was the Favre was hurt. Case Keenum was a quarterback.
uh,
Everybody and Packers had a
the,
ton of injuries that year too.
Huntley was the starting quarterback for the
Yep.
Packers that game.
Yep.
So 1971. So 1971, and then that shutout the Vikings had 16-0. Those were the last two shutouts in the series.
Yeah.
So you went from 1971 to 2017 before there was a shutout. Vikings won both.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I said, it's the only because the 60s the Packers dominated the series.
Yeah.
In the 70s the Vikings dominated the series. Actually, from the 70s through the 80s. Actually, from what 69 to like 69 to 90, 91, I think 92. The Vikings owned. The Vikings
technically, believe it or not, it would be 69 to 70, 78 because they lost to the Packers. I think that was at
I'm
Milwaukee.
not saying that they won all those games. I'm saying the Vikings dominated the series.
Well, the Packers swept us a lot in the 80s.
So,
I mean, they swept us a lot in the 80s. They swept us like 2 years in a row there. They swept us in 88. Everything else, I mean, they swept us in 80. I mean,
right,
it was they had their moments.
So 69.
69, they beat them.
The Vikings swept the Packers in 69.
Yeah, they scored 19-7. They played at the they didn't play at Met Stadium. They played at Memorial Stadium because of the baseball playoffs.
Right. And
then they won 9-7.
Yep. They split in 70.
Yep.
Vikings swept them again in 71.
Yep. That was a 3-0 game.
Yep. And the Vikings swept them again in 72.
No, we split because
let me see, 72.
Because the Packers beat us here at Met
Um,
Stadium and won the division.
They got this. They got this listed weird. Hold on. Let me see if
It was the next last game of the year for the Vikings.
Yeah, let me switch real quick because they have this one listed.
Which site is that?
The Pro Football Database, but it's the way they have it listed. All right. So let me change it. Let me change it on my listing on. Okay. All right. So I fixed something. Oh, that's much better. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So 71 Vikings 24, Packers 13, 0 for the Packers, 3 for the Vikings, 72, 27-13.
27-13. I think the Packers beat us to win.
24 to 23 to 7.
23-7. Yeah.
And then 73. 11 to
73 was 11-3 Vikings.
That had to be a weird game.
Yeah, it was. I remember what's his name getting sacked a lot in that game, Fran Tarkington. But then that's the game where the Packers started some guy whose name sounded like he was in the mob. Vikings won that game 11-3, and then next to last game of the year, they beat Green Bay 31-7. That's the one. If you watch it, Chuck Foreman highlights, he's got that long TD run against the Packers. That was in 73.
Yeah, it was 31-7 and 74. 30. So 74, 32 to 17.
Yep.
And then it seems like when the Vikings beat the Packers, they did what they were supposed to, and when they lost, it looks like they didn't do what they were supposed to.
It was also, I think, like in the 80s. I mean, it just was like Green Bay had their number. Like T-Bass brings up, the Packers swept the Vikings in 88, and the Packers only won 4 games that year. And 2 of them were against the Vikings.
So did the Vikings sweep them in 73? The Vikings swept them in 73.
73, 75, 76.
74 they split.
Yeah, 74 they split.
75 the games weren't even close.
Yep, 76, 77.
76.
78 there was a tie, but the Vikings won the one game. And then in 79 is when they started tying one.
They split. So they did sweep them 3 years in a row. Let's see, 78. 78 the Vikings beat the Packers. They tied 10-10, and then Green Bay So Minnesota,
79, we beat them 27-21 in overtime, and then we went to Green Bay and lost 19-7.
yeah. And then so that's 70. So the Vikings won the decade in the 70s. They should have won it by more because the Packers were awful. In 1980, Packers won both.
Yeah, they swept the Vikings.
And then 81
Split.
split. And then 82.
Only the one game because of the player strike. Packers
Well, 26-7.
Yep.
And then 83
split.
See 20-17 and 29-7, 29-29, 21.
Yeah.
See, the Packers swept us in 84
and 85.
45. What the hell went wrong in that game?
It was Les Steckel.
Yeah. And then 85. Yep. The Vikings scored 17 points in both games in 85.
Yep.
86, the Vikings won 42-7 and then 32-6. They swept them in 86. 87, they only played once. No, they played twice. Okay.
Well, the 42-7 game in 86 is one of Tommy Kramer threw 6 TD passes. That was his.
Oh, and speaking of Tommy Kramer, did you hear about his dementia?
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about it.
So the 86, 32-6, Minnesota over Green Bay. Then Green Bay came back and won the second one. 87, Vikings lost the first one. They lost.
The first one was a replacement game.
Yeah.
Was a replacement players.
And then 88.
They got swept. 34-13 at the Dome, and then 18-6.
Right. And then 89.
Split. The one they won is the Herschel Walker game.
20-19.
Yeah, the one they won was a Herschel Walker game.
In 1990, they split. 1991.
Split.
Let's see.
92, the Vikings swept them.
91, let me see. 91, 35-21, and then 27-7.
And then they lost Jerry Burns' last game as a coach.
And then 92.
That was a sweep. Denny swept them.
Yep. And then 93.
Denny swept them again.
Yep.
93, the home game is the Eric Gulliford game. He only caught one pass like his whole career, and it was for a big gainer from McMahon, and it put us in field goal range to win the game.
And 1994 looks like it's the first year that Green lost to him, 16-10.
Yep, that was we split that year.
Yep. And then 95. Is that?
I believe 95.
That's another split.
Yep.
Another split. And then 96
was a split.
And then close games that year. No. So 97.
Packers. That was a Packers sweep. Matter of fact, that's the game.
That was a Super Bowl year, right, for the Packers?
Yeah, both those years, 96 and 97, were both Super Bowl years. They lost to Denver in 97.
And of course,
that Viking game in 87, the home game was a Monday night game. That was the game where Brad Johnson woke up and he had no feeling in his throwing arm. And he played anyway. And kind of find out he had a nerve problem.
Yeah. Well, 98, we beat that ass.
98, we swept them. That was Randy Moss's literal. The whole world got to see Randy Moss, the Monday night game. 99, we split.
Yep. And then 2000.
Packers won them both. Packers swept.
So,
2001 was a split. Denny's last year.
I'm trying to see why do they. That's weird. They have a red L and a green W. They have the W next, but so that must be a typo.
Who they have the W next to?
They got Green Bay. It's like they have the The L's next to the Green Bay. I guess I must be looking at the Packer page, not the Viking page, because they have the W's. When the Packers win, they have the green W. When they lose, they have the red L.
Oh yeah,
So-
you're looking at the Packer. You're looking at the Packer. They're giving you the Packer
Right.
side.
So, but they had like L. They had LLL, so that's why I want to buy it. But
There was a lot of the Packers had a lot of sweeps. They swept us in 02. I think we split in 03. Regular season, they swept us in 04, except the playoff game. That was the Randy Moss Moon.
see, this one says you said 02? Because this one 01 they split. 02 it says they split.
No, 02, they lost them both.
It says Vikings 31, Packers 21. First meeting.
In 02?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what's the other game? What's the score of the other game?
The ones the Packers won was 24 let's see. 25 20 26 22. Was that the Freeman catch?
No, that was 2000.
Okay. Yeah, they had the
What year is
Vikings
that?
they got the 02. They got the Vikings winning 21 Vikings 31, Packers 21.
Wow. I thought the Vikings lost one.
Well, they lost the second game. They played November 17th, and then they played 2 weeks later on December 8th.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that was at the Dome, wasn't it?
Well, 02. Probably, when was last year the Dome? 03, right? Last year the Dome was what, 13? 2013?
Right.
Yeah. And then the Packers won 3 straight. They won twice in 04, then the second game in 03.
Okay.
And then the Vikings, after the Packers won 3 straight, the Vikings won 3 straight.
Yeah, they won the playoff game, and then they won. Did they sweep them in 05?
Yes.
Okay, they swept them in 05.
Then they won. Then they walked. Got to keep in mind of that 3-game sweep. One of them was the playoff game.
Yeah, that's what I keep in mind.
Yeah.
06.
So they beat them 3 times in the 05 year.
Okay. 06, was that a
06 to 08. Packers won every game.
Packers won every game. Okay. So then the first game wait, no, they won a game with Adrian in 08.
Packers 23, Vikings 17. Well, no, the 06 to 07.
Okay.
Yeah, then the first game of 08. So the Packers won 5 in a row.
Okay.
So that's the 5 in a row. They won the 2 in 06, they won the 2 in 07, and they won.
Hey, can I answer a question in the chat real quick?
Yeah, let me see. Which one?
For Bob Swede asking, did Tommy play anywhere else? If he's talking about Tommy Kramer played for the Saints. He was waived by the Vikings, and the Saints picked him up, but the Saints also let him go. But yeah, Tommy Kramer did play with the New Orleans Saints. Played against the Vikings, as a matter of fact. Second game of the 1990 season.
And then after the Packers won 5 in a row, the Vikings.
They won 5 in a row?
Yeah. So 11, 12, 06, Packers 23, Vikings 7, 12, 21, 06, Packers 9, Vikings 7, 9, 30, 2007, Packers 23, Vikings 16, 11, 07, Vikings 0, Packers 34, 9, September 8th, 28, Vikings 19, Green Bay 24. And then the Vikings won the next one by 1 point.
That's what I thought. That was the last second field goal.
Right. And then the Vikings won 3 in a row.
Okay.
08 in both years in 09.
Okay, yeah, because that was Brett's years.
And then the Packers won 5 straight again.
Well, in 2010, the Packers, what was the score that the score in
the 10-24-10. It was 26 to 24. And then the next one was 31-3.
Okay. That 31-3, the next day was the day that Brad Childress got fired.
Yeah. And then Leslie Frazier got his ass kicked the first 2
and
times.
Leslie Frazier got handed the job. But yeah, Childress got fired.
So the
Because-
Packers won 5 in a row after that.
Mhm.
Then the Vikings won 1 in 2012, 37-34. And then the
That was
Packers won.
the game to get into the playoffs.
The Packers won 2 more. And then there was that 26-26 tie. Then the Packers won 3 more. Then they lost 2 in a row. Then they won 1. Then they lost 2 in a row. Then there was the other tie.
So it's seesaw.
And then they lost after the tie. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So out of, let's see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Packers lost 6 of the next 8, and they tied once. So
Okay.
and then they've lost the last 2 times they've played.
The Packers have
21. Well, no, the 21 they lost. They lost third. You had the so 22, 20 and 21. They lost both those. The last game of 2020 and the first game of 21 they lost those. And then since 21 so since November of 2021 it's been back and forth. The Packers would win 1, the Vikings would win, the Packers would win, the Vikings would win, and the Packers would win 1.
Yeah, because I mean, KLC won his first game ever against the Packers.
So it's those two streaks of 5 games in a row where I think the Packers took over the series lead.
Yeah, they're not. And one of them was at the height of Aaron Rodgers, and the other one was at Brett Favre. I mean, and that will probably not happen again. I don't think Jordan Love is the answer, to be honest. I don't even know if Jordan Love plays Sunday. Sounds like I want him to, but I wouldn't play him. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I wouldn't, not with our pass rush.
No.
Not with the Vikings pass rush. I would not.
And if the rush is coming, he can't. I mean, he's coming off a knee injury. I mean, it's going to be hard for him to move. You know? But then again, Malik Willis, all he does is run. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be your typical NFC Central / North battle on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is going to. I don't know. The Vikings have won most of their games, but they've been dominating so far. But like I said, this is a divisional opponent, so
yeah, and the teams are pretty even.
Jay Ward, Ivan Pace Jr., and Garrett Bradbury did not practice today,
and they will probably all play on Sunday, especially Bradbury.
Jordan Addison limited practice, Bullard limited practice, Dallas Turner limited practice, Kruger Hill limited practice, Josh Oliver limited practice.
They probably what they'll do is they'll keep them out for a day, or if they do any work, it's limited work. I haven't paced in practice. That's kind of concerning.
And then Sam Darnold didn't practice.
He did practice.
He was full practice.
Yeah, he is full practice.
For Green Bay, Jordan Morgan did not practice. Jair Alexander was limited. Kenny Clark limited. Tucker, whoever that is, limited. Jordan Love was limited. And then Luke Musgrave was limited. The Packers definitely have a lot of people on the injury list.
Right.
Nobody on the injury list for the Packers was full participant. They were all limited or did not practice.
Okay.
So
this is going to be one of those old school. If
the weather's not going to be a factor.
Weather's not going to be a factor. If you're expecting a lot of points, you might not get it.
No, I don't think I don't think there's going to be a lot of points.
I don't either. When I sat down and thought about it, I said like 24-20 Vikings. That's how close it's going to be. Different team, different mindset. O'Connell's coaching style is different this year than what?
I mean, if you look at the history, most of the games are close.
They are, yeah. There was a
Yeah, there's
run.
sometimes when the Vikings might win 41-17. You have those instances, but
Mhm.
most of them within 6 points.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm not expecting a lot of points here. I'm really not. I am expecting both teams to run the football. That's why I say it's going to be like an old school battle.
It's going to be. It's. I see if Jordan Love plays, they're going to actually be more of a drop back pass team. And Jordan Love's not going to be able to escape the pocket like he used to.
That's true. Yeah,
The Vikings defense, unless you have a lot of years of experience in the NFL as a quarterback, it's very hard for you to read. So,
which probably means it's now see it's different though. I mean, because you don't even know Aaron Rodgers is after Love in London, so there's not a defense he hasn't seen, but I don't know if he's got that know-how or if he's even got that care to really sit there and dissect the team at the line.
yeah, I'm saying Aaron Rodgers is probably the only quarterback who could do anything with his defense because he's good at reading post reads, not pre reads.
Right.
So,
and he's not mobile either. He can get
right, exactly. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I feel good about this Vikings team. I want to say the Vikings, you're just going to go in there and mop the floor, but you can't because it's the Packers.
Right. And as a Viking fan, also you're cautious. How many years have we been high and like going to Green?
Well, last time they started 0-5. Last time they started 3-0, that was 2016.
Yeah,
and they finished 8-8.
Yep. So I mean,
well,
yeah.
Granted, this is a far better team. This team's far better coached than that team, but
yeah, it's not a. I mean, like I said, I've got guarded optimism as to what goes on the rest of the year. Either way, I'm not upset. I'm just not. Yeah, there's some things that you can criticize them for, and I have, but it's not a whole hell of a lot because they're doing some things that I wanted them to do, and they're actually doing it. And that's on KOC's part.
Well, that's you and I have been killed, which we don't care because
Mm-hmm.
we would if we weren't if we cared about what people thought, or if we got mad if people disagree with us, we wouldn't be doing this. But you and I got killed because we criticized KOC. The stuff that we were critical for KOC, he has changed this year.
Big time. That's the first. Yeah, it's everything I criticized him for. There's none of that this year.
Yeah.
There's none of that. Matter of fact, it's kind of a like.
Well, that's why I said the Vikings had the best coaching staff in the NFL right now.
Yeah. I mean, he basically everything that I said Harbaugh would have done with this team, KOC's now doing it.
Do you think the Vikings would have ran Aaron Jones 19 times coming into the season?
What was the question?
Do you think the Vikings? Do you think KOC would ever run Aaron Jones 19 times in a game?
No, I never thought he'd run the ball. Period.
Yeah.
That's why I was real skeptical because I don't know what it was. That's why I have a theory about that. I think somebody besides Brian Flores was in KOC's ear, if you know what I mean. And it was his first gig. So he's going to take advice from people. I mean, that offense compared to now was very limited. And I think that was because of who you had at quarterback. And then the fact that you couldn't run the ball with Madison, I don't know if that was.
I think that was more.
Could have been KOC did not trust Madison.
I don't think he. Maybe the Vikings blocking scheme didn't fix Madison because look at the way Madison's playing with the Raiders. It's not great, but it's better than what we got.
He's a north-south runner. He doesn't. So, you had to put a hole in front of him. Also, remember we had Cam Akers, and I think that was the guy that was going to start. He was starting until he got hurt against the Packers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was going to be KLC's guy, and they had success running the ball with Cam Akers. So, but yeah, they're doing everything this year that I wanted them to do last year. So, I can't even complain about it because they're 3-0, and they're every opportunity they have, they're taking advantage of it. They're not getting dominated. They're the aggressors, and
Sorry, I had to pull my fan closer to me.
no problem. But I mean, the Vikings are the aggressors. They're aggressive down at the goal line. They're aggressive on defense. They're aggressive running the ball. That's football.
Yeah. I mean, think about this. The Packers have a good coaching staff, even though he looks like a 12-year-old boy. Even when the Packers have had a bad coaching staff, as history has shown, and the Vikings have had a good coaching staff, you never know going into the game who's going to win.
Right.
So it's hard to. History will tell you, it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick the game because the series is so close.
Well, it has been since Lombardi left in the 60s, and then Bud took over, but Bud had some really average teams after all the greats retired. So
Right.
basically they played down to the Packers level, because the Packers, outside of even, James Lofton, John Jefferson, Lynn Dickey, Paul Kaufman, they had Gary Ellis and Eddie Lee Ivory and Ezra Johnson playing defensive end. The team was really not that good. It really wasn't. But they would get up and play. They would get up to play the Vikings. And those are Bart Starr teams.
Yeah.
And Bart
But in the
was
same way, because I remember that year that the Packers won 4 games, they beat the Vikings twice, and the Bears.
that was 80. Yeah, that was 88. That was Jerry Burns. And Burns had some really good teams. Jerry Burns had some damn good teams if they had just put their focus where it should have been. And a lot of that was on Jerry Burns as a head coach. But yeah, there was, once again, that was in the 80s. Who was the Vikings' kryptonite? The Green Bay Packers. They really were.
But then, even with the Packers having A-Rod and Brett Favre, they still didn't really dominate the Vikings. But the Vikings were bad.
The Packers, when free agency first hit, when they scored Reggie White, that was a catalyst to get other ones on defense. So that helped them. Let's be honest, that helped them win the Super Bowl. But you had, how long do you have? What do you have Brett for? 13 plus years.
92 to what?
07?
28. Because his first year with the Jets was 08. So yeah, 27. Yeah.
Oh shit, that's what, 15 years?
Yeah.
And then you have Aaron Rodgers for damn near another 13, 14.
Yeah, you have Aaron Rodgers from 08 to 2020, 2022.
Right. And plus he was drafted and sat, 3 years?
Yeah.
So to get 2 Super Bowls, which is more than us, but in that span, they only have 2 Super Bowls compared to New England, what they did with Tom Brady. You're kind of like, the Packers should have had more titles, and he had some pretty decent teams.
Well, they lost. They lost they beat the Patriots, and
they lost to the Broncos.
And they lost to the Broncos.
Yeah, they lost to the Broncos.
Right. So.
And then they beat the Steelers.
Right. And they should have lost again, but the Steelers.
The only difference in that Steelers Super Bowl was a pick 6.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was only a 6-point win.
So, yeah, you can't take that away from them. They did get there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just with how great the quarterback play has been for that team, they underperformed.
That's what I mean. They should have had more championships than they had. They should have.
And then you tell most Packer fans are young because they've had this success at the quarterback position.
Well, those that are my age remember They had a merry-go-round for quarterbacks at one
Well,
time.
not only that, they were their Buccaneers there for a little bit. They were just as bad
Yeah.
as the Bucks. Who's worse, the Packers or the Bucks?
Yep.
Every year.
And they were both in the NFC Central.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, think about that though. The Vikings and the Bears lived well for years with how bad the Bucks, the Vikings, and the Packers were.
Let's put the Lions in there too, because they would have their years.
That's what I'm saying. The Lions, the Bucks, and the Packers were bad for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions were competitive. They were always on that cusp, but at the bottom of the division was always the Bays, Green Bay and Tampa Bay. And you know, and they bring Tampa Bay into the division. Well, guess what? Then Tampa Bay gets better than Green Bay, and you're just kind of like, what the hell's going on in Green Bay? You know, and then Green Bay got lucky with free agency. The best thing that happened to the Packers was Jerry Glanville being a dumbass and trading Brett Favre to Green Bay, thinking that Chris Miller was going to be the quarterback to get him to the championship.
Just think, Trisha's team could have been the team that had the Brett Favre all them years.
I know. Yeah, she knows. And she don't like Brett Favre at all.
And then, did you guys hear? He has Parkinson's.
He's got Parkinson's. And then Tommy Kramer came out and said he has dementia.
Yeah.
Which I thought Tommy was still drinking. He's not drinking anymore. So.
Yeah, it's a long history between the two. It's, of course, it's hard. It's because they both had great coaches. They both had crappy coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They both had, the Packers have had the better quarterback play at least the last 30 years. So that may be one of the reasons why, because there was times the Vikings had Tarkenton and they had Kramer, which was better than anything Green Bay had. But of course, in Green Bay, they had Bart Starr, then they had Lynn Dickey, so that they had quarterbacks that were better than what Minnesota had. It's just you would think that the series would be closer than what it is.
Yeah. Or more lopsided.
Well, the Vikings should have won more in the 70s and 80s when they were a far superior team to the Packers.
That's true. That is true. And even in the 90s, they lost some games that they should have won. Yeah. Especially in the 80s. Because the Packers, put it this way, the Packers are not a good team, but you know what? The highlight of their season was beating the Vikings.
Yeah,
that was the highlight of their season.
People say Packers and Bears is like the rival, but I think I kind of want to say the Packers and the Vikings are the main rival.
Packers and Bears for historical
reasons, yes, but. I think
here's the thing: if the Vikings should have a rivalry, if anybody, is Chicago, because that's the first team we ever beat.
And aren't they close? They're closer too. Isn't Chicago closer than
no? Green Bay's closer.
Oh, okay.
Not by much, of maybe an hour.
Okay.
But because it's Minnesota, Wisconsin, that's how it got to be a rivalry.
Yeah.
Just if it was, Minnesota, Iowa, or whatever, it would have been the same way. But as far as us having a rival, I would think it's Chicago, especially when we beat them the first time we ever played them and embarrassed them.
Yeah, no, but I like Chicago. I don't like Chicago, but I like them more than I like the Packers.
And I don't have a problem with the Packers. I've said that. I don't care for some of their fans. That's what pisses me off. But if I had a choice between the Packers and the Cowboys, I'd want them both to lose. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be the Packers because I can't stand the Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys.
I call my eyes out every time the Packers and Cowboys play in the playoffs.
I just kind of hope they end up in a tie.
It's like I don't want to watch either one of these teams. I don't want either one of them to win.
Yeah, you know, and I was even kind of like when they played that playoff game that year, and remember what's his name got robbed of that catch. I was kind of
Des
like,
Bryant.
yeah, Des Bryant. I'm like, okay, that is a catch, but it is the Cowboys. But I want to stick it to the Packers, but it is the Cowboys. So and for me, it was just kind of like, yep, you got robbed. But personally, I could
They
care
still
less.
talk. They still talk about it today.
That catch,
Yeah.
yeah, almost as much as we still talk about that Hail Mary in '75.
Yeah, but
So
one was actually a foul.
yeah,
You know,
well,
it's just crazy.
it is. But yeah, I mean, I think my oldest memory, I saw them play the Packers in '72. I remember watching on TV with my mom and dad. So that's my earliest one. And then, like I said, they didn't show Viking home games until '73. So I didn't see them play at Met Stadium until '73. That was the 11-3 game. That was the 11-3 game.
That's a weird score.
It was all field goals until the Vikings got a safety.
Well, obviously, when you have 11, it's almost safety's involved.
Well, and back then, kickers weren't as accurate as they are now, so they could miss an extra point from the 10-yard line.
Yeah, the straight on kickers.
Yeah, they could miss it. Even the ones that were soccer style would miss them. But yeah, it was off.
Well, they didn't work. They didn't. It's not like nowadays where the specialists are the specialists and the kicking is all they work on.
That's all they do. Yeah.
Back then they didn't. Back then they still had to go work their factory job during the off season. That's why. I guess that's why today it's more nobody's perfect. We get that. You're going to miss kicks. Just like quarterbacks miss throws. Defensive players miss tackles. But when you do it egregiously and you do it all the time,
you should be damn flawless.
It makes it hard because you do it all year round.
Yeah.
But I
mean, it's like now with all the emphasized training on it, you're kind of like, you guys should be perfect. Because that's all you do. That's all.
Like Big Willie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean,
even when you miss, you're good.
How quiet was that damn stadium if you could hear the doink off the damn goalpost? Or did they have a microphone there?
They always have microphones.
Oh, okay, because it was a lot. I
heard
either
right on it, or the guy has that big big dish underneath it.
Yeah, because I thought it was kind of loud, but I thought the crowd had been pretty loud.
It seemed like the crowd was louder than the game that I went to, maybe because there was just less like Texans fans. There was a lot of 49er fans there.
Yeah,
not enough to take over the stadium, but there was a lot of 49er fans there.
Yeah, there were a few Texas fans that came up, made the trip. It's only straight up 35. So, yeah. But it was loud, I guess, for that. It was loud and the doors were open and it was still loud.
Yeah, 35 is about 4 miles from my house.
Okay, yeah.
Is where 35 ends.
Yeah, you could take 35 right up to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Right up to the stadium, as a matter of fact.
I think I'll fly. That's a long drive.
That's a long drive.
Especially going through Austin. Take me 3.5 hours just to get to Austin.
Yeah. So you're like, yeah, just let me get the fuck out of here.
But
yeah, it's it's a rivalry, and
the Packers went from nothing on their helmet to the G on their helmet. And that's pretty much it, right?
What's that?
The Packers went from nothing on their helmet to the G on their helmet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like they never had anything else on their helmet but the G?
No, and I want to say Vince Lombardi helped design that.
Did
'Cause they
Georgia have
beat-
the G first, or did the Packers have the G first?
The Packers got the G in 61.
I think Georgia may have had it first.
Georgia didn't have it. Georgia didn't get their G till the 60s, mid 60s.
So you're saying Georgia copied Green Bay?
Mm-hmm. Well, both now, because if you look at both G's, they're rounded, whereas the original Packer G was a sharper G, but now it's rounded. The G is rounded to look the way it does now.
Right.
Not only is the Packers, but it's also Georgia, and it's also Grambling State.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a generic G, as they say, a generic decal.
I want to say, of course, there's high schools that have it too, but I think those are the major colleges in the protein. I think that's it
What?
for the G. Yeah.
Yeah, Grambling State in Georgia.
Grambling
Grambling's in Louisiana, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Grambling's in Louisiana. But see, like I don't know, it's Southern's in Louisiana too, right? University of Southern.
It's either Louisiana. Yeah, I think so. Southern University.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's Louisiana.
Yeah, so the Packers won the last one. So if it keeps going, Packers, Vikings, Packers, Vikings, Packers, Vikings, that means the Vikings should win this one.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the Vikings will start a run here where they dominate.
The Packers?
Vikings will win at least 3 in a row. Probably starting this year.
So you think, because that hasn't been, so you think the Vikings are going to sweep the Packers this year?
This year, yeah.
I think they would have last year if Cousins never got hurt.
I think they do. I looked at the Packer roster. I mean, outside of Jordan Love, who scares you? Maybe Clark on the
Well, Kenny
D-line.
Clark maybe because of that's only because of who our offensive linemen are.
Gary's probably on O'Neal or Darisaw.
Well, I know we all know that Alexander cannot cover JJ 1-on-1, even though he thinks he can.
No, and I hope Green Bay makes the mistake of putting him 1-on-1 with JJ.
The same thing the Texans did.
Right. It's not gonna bode well. It's not gonna bode well for Alexander, which I'm fine with because he's got a big mouth anyway.
Well, you can't understand what he says.
I call him mush mouth.
Was that a Denzel Washington line? That's because we speak mush mouth, sir. Was that Denzel?
Mm-mm. Mush mouth was one of the kids on the Cosby Show.
Well, no, there's like a clip. I can't saw it. It's like
I call him Mushmouth because there was one of the name of the kids on the Fat Albert comedy show. His name was Mushmouth, I believe.
Is that the guy that put his hat below his eyes?
I think that he was the one that had the stocking cap and the scarf.
Okay. I think I know who you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
yeah, if it shuts up Alexander, fine. I mean, I kind of want to see, because you know what? LaFleur has kind of bullied Kevin O'Connell in some of these games here. He's bullied him. He really has. I want to see O'Connell come out there and be the bully this time. You know, if I wanted to see him run up a score on anybody, I want to see him run up the score on Green Bay.
The first game against Green Bay, up until the point where Cousins got hurt, the Packers were pretty much being dominated.
Yeah, they were.
So that's kind of why I'm thinking. That's kind of why I'm thinking that this game may not be close because of that first game last year, and this team is more like that one than the second time they played each other last year.
Only difference is we
And
couldn't
it-
run the ball last year.
And the defense is much, much, much better this year than it was last year.
And that's you know what? We lost not only that game, we lost Kirk. We also lost Cam Akers because Cam Akers was running the ball well.
Yeah,
I do remember that.
because I remember we were all excited that they beat Green Bay, but then we were pissed off that Cousins was out for the season. We almost had that same feeling last week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just kept thinking, it's like, oh my God, fucking Nick Mullins. That's all I could think.
Why can't we have nice things?
Yeah,
you know?
that's all I could think. It's like we're literally down to Nick Mullins.
So how'd you watch? How did watching the game with Trisha go last week?
Went good. Her game not so much, but she's had it with Kirk already, so.
Well, they didn't lose that game because of Kirk, but
No, it doesn't. When the refs are missing calls that are obvious, I'm like, they did that to us last year. Almost the exact same thing. You know? Right now the Chiefs had a lot of luck on their side.
well, I mean, you got to be good and lucky.
Yeah.
For you to win, you got to be good and lucky. I don't know if the Chiefs are going to three-peat because the Bills look damn good.
Yeah, and you know what? Josh Allen is doing all that with different receivers. He doesn't have a number one receiver.
Well, he pretty much called Stephon Diggs a cancer in the locker room.
Yeah.
He didn't come out and say it, but if you read between what he said, he pretty much was calling him a cancer and a diva, which is what we told all Bill fans when they got Stephon Diggs was going to happen.
He's going to be a drama queen. We told him that.
He's probably going to be in Texans. He's probably going to be in Houston for a couple of years, and then he's going to move on again.
Now I got one for you, Curtis.
Yeah.
If you're a Bears fan, when do you start to panic about Caleb Williams?
They don't think Caleb Williams is the problem. They think the offensive line's the problem. He threw for over 300 yards last week. First Bears quarterback to do that in how many years?
Yeah, did they win?
But what's what I'm saying? They don't blame him. They blame the offensive line. They blame coaching.
Thank God. He might get that cover. He might get that kind of coverage that that the one guy here got used to get.
Nothing. He threw for 3 yards. We also had 2 picks.
Mm-hmm. And they played the Colts, right?
20. Yeah, they lost to the Colts.
What's the name?
They could not run against the Colts, who has a 32 rushing defense.
And that's without Buckner because Buckner got hurt.
Yes, he got hurt in the Packer game.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yep, that's what I thought. Good night, Mom.
Good night.
That's what I thought. I mean, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, the division's coming down to Minnesota and Green Bay. Detroit will be in there, but
you still got people picking Detroit to win the division. They still have better Super Bowl odds. And
I don't know.
It's got to be Sam Darnold. It has to be. It's the only thing I can think of.
Oh, for the negativity?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he was a number 3 overall, and he didn't do good in New York, and he didn't do good in Carolina. So they think it's only a matter of time before he falters. You know who's preaching that the most? Stephen A. Smith.
Well, Nick Wright too.
Yeah.
Nick Wright has Caleb Williams above Sam Darnold.
Nick Wright, though, is a chronic. Well, we got the thing up. Is a chronic Chiefs. I'm just gonna say a dick rider.
Well, he's also a Bears fan too.
Yeah.
So, but you can't have even if you are a Bears fan, you cannot have Caleb Williams retired and Sam Darnold. I don't care.
No, you can't.
You can't go past performances is not indicative of future performance. So Geno Smith, he at one time was worse than Sam Darnold. Baker Mayfield, look how bad he was. So why can't Sam Darnold be a reclamation project? Why is
And
it got
plus, it's Sam actually has an offensive-minded coach. He had
right?
one last year in Shanahan, which he probably learned a lot from Shanahan too, because we kind of run the same type of offenses.
Well, he also said he learned a lot from Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
He's like, I've never seen a quarterback work that hard. Well, Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. He has to work hard.
yeah. He has no choice. He's got to.
Yeah.
We
So
unfortunately for the last 6 years had a quarterback that took days off and didn't work hard. He really didn't.
So what does that tell you? That most top picks, do they not? Some of them obviously don't work hard.
No, you're going to have your bad ones.
Yeah.
If they don't, and with teams now, once they draft them, they have to work right away. That's why when Minnesota was sitting, they were going to sit JJ this year, but I was like,
well, I don't think they were going to sit him the whole year, but they were definitely going to.
They were definitely going to sit him, I think. But if what's his name has started to falter, like put it this way, JJ's healthy. We start the season 0-3 instead of where we are now when the offense isn't moving. I said, yeah, they would have him. He'd be starting by the bye week.
And well, maybe that's another reason why Darnold's playing well is because he didn't have JJ looking over his shoulder.
That could be it too. Well, I know that's one of the reasons the former guy didn't sign back here was because we told him we were going to draft a quarterback. That's one of the reasons he didn't sign. And that's one of the reasons he put up such a stink when the Falcons did draft a quarterback.
And then there was who was it? Was it like Mike Florio? I guess it was Mike Florio knew that the Vikings were not going to re-sign Kirk Cousins, so they were telling him Sam Darnold's the guy.
Yeah,
but he still has to pay. He has the Packers in front of the Vikings in his power rankings, by the way.
Well, they do, and power rankings are worthless in the NFL. I'm sorry, they just are.
Oh, I know, but it's a talking point. It shows you the disrespect. It shows you the disrespect that a certain team gets.
Yeah, and it's done by national media, which means when it comes to Minnesota, they're not going to get any respect. The Packers are America's darlings, if you really want to say that. But yeah, the Vikings aren't going to get, and it's Sam Darnold. They're waiting for the bottom to drop. They are literally waiting for the bottom to drop with Sam Darnold.
That's why Nick Wright doesn't have him rated very high because he's waiting for the bottom to fall out.
Right.
But when does that point not come to just being a dumb point?
It becomes a dumb point if he rides this wave all the way to like 9-10 games and then he loses and they're like, we told you this is who he is, that type of shit. That's when it gets real old. They're waiting early. The problem is he's got a better supporting cast than he ever had in Carolina and the Jets.
And he's missing two of them.
Yeah, he's missing two. So, I mean, he's got an offensive-minded coach. Things work for him. And let's be honest, the offense he's running now, same offense that JJ would run.
Yeah.
The same offense. Now, here's my question for you. I might have asked you this already. We got on KOC last year for certain play calling, right?
Yep.
Do you think a lot of the problems he had with play calling were because the quarterback he was stuck with?
Yeah, we talked about this on the phone.
Plays?
We talked about this on the phone earlier when we talked.
Yeah.
I think there's a point to that because I think Sam Darnold is playing with all the confidence in the world. I think he needed that confidence. I think Shanahan has given it to him. I think KOC has given it to him because Darnold, they were, you talk about when Darnold was in high school, you talk about Darnold through confidence, his college, or like, Sam Darnold had confidence because he knew he was better than everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the NFL, he realized you're not the best. It's hard to be the
Right.
best at what you do.
Reality set in.
Right. So he kind of lost that confidence. So when he has that, when you have that confidence, it's like, well, I know I have the arm strength. I know I can do this. I know I can do that. I think Cousins has his own personal governor, meaning I have the arm strength to make that call, to make that throw, but do I want to throw it into that coverage where my receiver has a pretty good chance of catching it, or do I want to throw it to the guy who's more open, but I won't get as big as gain, or I'll be short of the first down or whatever? Because look at that. If you look at that throw to Johnny Munt in the end zone, I don't think Cousins makes that pass.
No, Cousins throws in the back of the end zone.
Right. Nick Mullins makes that pass, but McNollins doesn't have the arm that either of these two guys have. So if Nick Mullins had a stronger arm, I think he'd be a starter. Because he's a gunslinger who takes chances, who doesn't have the arm strength. That's Nick Mullins' problem. So, yeah, I'm looking at Nick Wright's things right now. He's still got Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Texans all above Minnesota. So,
no love. Who did that?
Nick Wright.
Yeah.
He's got his, well, he doesn't call them power rankings. He calls them tiers. TIERS.
Yeah. Okay. You know what?
He's got Minnesota, Seattle, and Pittsburgh on the same line, but all three are below. They have talented but untrustworthy: the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Jets. Something's a bit off, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has the Texans, the 49ers, and then the Ravens. A pretty decent, which is, I think, is the third tier because there's only two teams left. He has pretty decent. He's got the Packers and the Lions.
Wow.
And then so the next tier, he's going to have the Chiefs by himself. He always does. Until the Chiefs lose, he has them by themselves. Mm-hmm. So my guess is the next tier is going to be Buffalo by themselves, and then it's going to be, might be good. Buffalo by themselves, and of course, he has definitely good. The Chiefs on top, which is Chiefs what I figured. Top,
yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he has the Vikings as like the 10th or 11th team, but he has the Packers at 4.
Okay.
Typical suck the Green Bay dick media.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. That's why I don't pay any attention to them. I think they're full of you know what.
The one thing I do is Greg Jennings is on that show, and he usually brings them back down to earth.
He's the only real one on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the only real one on there. And you can tell it.
So I think we're gonna hold. Do you want to do predictions now, or do you want to hold off until Friday night?
I'm gonna say my prediction until Friday night.
Because that way we'll know the final injury report.
Yeah.
And all that. So remember, Friday Free for All, it's a weekly thing now during the season, but the first part of that show is Tony, Sarah, and I talking, and we talk the upcoming game and stuff like that, and then after that we open it up. So going back real quick to the history, it's pretty close history. There's been times when the Packers have been a little bit more dominant than the Vikings, unfortunately, but it's a pretty close history. There are some blowouts either way, but most of the games are within a touchdown. So it's going to be a pretty close. It's hard to pick the game because I want to say the Vikings are going to destroy them, but the back of my mind is like, hey, it's the Packers. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be definitely a must-watch game, whether it's Love or Malik Willis starting. So
I'm thinking it'll be a close game, but and this is my optimism this year like I've never had before, and I haven't had this for years. Something tells me it could be a blowout in the Vikings' favor.
I'm thinking if it's a blowout, it's going to be like the COVID year where the Vikings just totally manhandled the Packers.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm just something inside of me.
I don't think the Packers are going to blow the Vikings out if they win.
No, something inside of me just tells me this Viking team. It's almost like they're on a mission. They want to prove wrong.
Real quick though, I watched the field access for the Vikings game. Right, you know how they have that on there. You can hear the players like in their pregame.
Yeah,
like, dude, we got to keep this up. They don't believe in us. No one believes in us.
yeah.
You know, so they're not talking about Viking fans, obviously. So when they say, when a professional athlete says, "Oh, I don't watch that stuff. I don't listen to it," they're full of shit.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah.
There's always chatter.
Look at the Philadelphia Eagles back when they played the Vikings. Even though it was a fallacy towards the end of the season about being underdogs, they took that, and ran with it. And that was their motivation. So hopefully that works this year for the Vikings.
Yeah, and I think it's if you're going to make a statement. I mean, you've played now the Giants, no big deal. You beat the Niners,
but the Giants looking like the Giants beat the Cowboys tomorrow. That Giants win is going to be more meaningful.
It's the Cowboys.
I know, but I'm just saying because the Giants would have beat the Commanders if they had a kicker. So you could possibly look at a 3-1 Giants team, and the Vikings would be the only team that would beat them. You're looking at a one loss. You're looking at a one-loss Texans team, who's the team to beat them. Because the Texans ain't losing Sunday. They're playing the Colts. And then
where are they playing in Texas?
I don't think it matters. But
the Colts aren't very good.
Right,
this
and then
year.
San Fran, the only reason they have 2 losses is because of their injuries, but they didn't have those injuries when they played the Vikings.
And questionable play calling from the coach. That's the same thing happened again.
Yeah, Deebo Samuel was not hurt when he played the Vikings. The defensive players, Hargrave and stuff like they were not hurt when they played Minnesota.
But you know what though? We beat those players, and he even replaced CMC with the other running back.
Right.
He got 100 yards and a touchdown. Maybe I think he had one touchdown at least, and we still beat them. We beat them at their own game.
Yeah,
we were out physical. I think this team is, and they're physical this year. Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
that is going to shock a lot of teams.
The 2 criticisms that we've had about KOC is his questionable play calling, which he's totally fixed this year, and the physicality of the team, which
they've fixed on both sides of the ball. It's on the offensive side of the ball too. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yep.
So my whole thing was, now maybe I'll bring this up Friday. I'm sure KOC and B-Flow had a heart-to-heart talk in the offseason. I'm pretty sure
B-Flow is like, we got to get more physical, man.
Right. And I think the first 2 years that KOC was here, I almost think it was an agenda for the front office, especially after they were 13-4.
Yeah.
I just think something just tells me it's because he's coaching completely different. Attitude-wise, style, everything. It's like,
if he doesn't win Coach of the Year and the Brian Flores doesn't win Defensive Coach of the Year, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And if Sam Darnold doesn't get Comeback Player of the Year, then if Darnold keeps playing like he's playing, if he doesn't get Comeback Player of the Year and those 2 don't get Coaches of the Year, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to keep playing.
He may not get in. Darnold may not get MVP. That may go to Josh Allen, which is so far he deserves it. But it's hard to see. But yeah,
it's we'll see how it plays out. It's still early. Like we've said before, we've seen it before. They could win these 3 games and then all of a sudden just fucking take a drastic nosedive. But
it's gonna be hard to. Because they could lose the next 3 games. They could, because they play the Packers, the Jets, and then the Lions. So they could lose those next 2 teams. I don't think they're going to. I think at worst they're 2-1 with those 3 games. But then
the Jets game is one that worries me because
then after they play the Lions, they play 3 straight road games. But those 3 straight road games are the Titans, the Colts, and the Bears.
No, what about the Rams? They got to play the Rams.
That's after. I believe the Rams is after those three. I think it goes Detroit and then Tennessee, then Indy, then
Okay, after Dubai week, we've got the Lions, and then we go to the Rams. Then we got the Colts at home. And then we got the 3 games with Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Chicago, which right now those games look very winnable.
I just glanced at it. So, but like I said,
if I was being arrogant, I would say I don't see a loss until Seattle.
4 losses. That's all I see of the rest of the schedule.
Who do you got us losing to?
The Jets because of Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
The Rams because Sean McVay. And then they're going to lose. They're going to lose one game to the Pat. They're going to one of the 3. They're going to lose. They're going to have 2 division losses. Either one to the Lions, one to the Bears, or one to the Pack.
And the ones that if you're going to lose to the Lions, we play the Packers and Lions at the end of the year too.
Right. So the last game of the year, game of the year could be the Vikings could clinch home. They could have home field, and they're not playing anybody.
Okay.
So that's the way I look at it. That those are the only 4. I mean, of course, the Vikings could play down to the competition like they have. But I have not seen that this year.
I haven't seen it yet either.
So 4 losses. That's why. No, if the Vikings lose this Sunday, I think they beat the Jets. But I don't see the Packers beating them this Sunday. But the only reason I say the Jets is because they have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. If they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, that's a win for the Vikings. But Aaron Rodgers has been in the league for so long. He's seen a lot of things, and he knows how to read after the snap, as opposed to most of these young quarterbacks.
He's not as mobile though.
Right. So that'd be another thing.
I'm gonna say this: we probably go into the bye week undefeated. Here I am, Mr. Optimism. Here,
I say at the worst 1 loss, and that's to the Jets in London.
Yeah,
but the Vikings have never lost in London, and that's another streak that probably going to keep going this year. So,
yeah, I don't. I honestly don't see a loss.
All right, could you imagine them being undefeated going into the bye? The talk that people.
It's very possible. It is very possible. Here I am, Mr. Optimism. Go figure.
That's because we ain't got number.
Yeah, I ain't got that. We don't have that weight that we've had for the last 6 years. It's just refreshing. But with the attitude and everything, I think it's 5-0. And here's the thing: if they do lose one of those games, they'll bounce right back.
Yeah, I do not see them losing to the Titans or the Colts. They could lose to the Bears because it's the Bears and weird shit happens in Chicago. But I don't see them losing to the Colts or the Titans.
Yeah, and by the time we play the Bears, that field is going to be all hacked up too.
Yeah, but we got a running game now.
Yeah, that's true.
Mr. Jones and me. All right, guys. We appreciate you guys for watching this. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you guys watching this. We got 15 viewers. Much appreciated. We actually have 10 viewers on my X. Thank you guys for watching on X. Appreciate it. So guys on X can comment, by the way. We can see your comments when you make a comment on X. So don't be afraid to get involved in the conversation as well. We much appreciate it. Sarah, we are doing the Friday shows. I will send you the link in the chat on your X. So be on the lookout for that. Yeah, so it's the same time, same bat channel. It'll be 9:40 Central Time, 9:45 depending on what goes on that day. If I get home late for work or whatever like that. But like I said, we appreciate every one of you guys for being here as usual, and we can't wait for the game. So, Skol Vikings!
Skol Vikings!
Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, honor in your name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Troy.